Just wanted to give you a quick Bitcoin update. Today is Sunday, February 19th, 2023. And what we looked at last video was moving averages, um, which are right here. We looked at the 50-week moving average, simple moving average, and also the 200-week moving average. We pointed out how Bitcoin's price is pinned under those two. We also talked about other names, other assets, but we're just going to kind of focus on Bitcoin for this time around. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of these moving averages. By the way, the price moved up to 25,000 again to test those simple moving averages earlier this morning, and again was rejected from 25,100 something to 24,500 something. So, and that's where we are currently right now, as you can see. So again, my thoughts is we're going to be crashing back down, maybe slowly, maybe in a methodical way, but our direction is likely not up. It's more probable to go down. There could be a possibility where we pass up temporarily past those moving averages up into 27,000 range temporarily, and then find the gravity will find us, pull us back down. So one way or the other, I wouldn't be buying personally in this area, in this $24,000 or $25,000 range. Okay, but full disclosure, I am not a trader. I'm an investor, right? So what I typically do is I don't find myself trading on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. I will try to buy in on the low of a cycle, not the low of the day. So in a cycle, Bitcoin typically runs in a 4-year cycle. Each of these peaks are happening in a 4-year cycle, right? And there's been 4 of them now. So what I'm looking at today, though, with you is we looked at more of the standard view for a 1-week chart for Bitcoin. Today we're looking at the logarithmic scale, which is more of a diagonal, showing the momentum of the price. Okay, same chart essentially, but what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at trend lines today. Okay, and maybe a little bit of history. So I'll turn those on, and we'll draw some together. So what you see here is I have a trend line that I drew, which is a base trend line for today's talk. But I also have some boxes here that kind of outline some of the previous peaks of different bull runs. 2017 bull run, and then the June 2019 top, which is not really a bull run. It was just a kind of a mini run there. Then we also had the 2014 bull run top in this area, in that 3,000 plus area. So this is just for perspective of where we've been, okay? Now, my red box that I have here is indicating where I'd like to see the low of this particular bull run into bear market, right? So this is my estimation, not financial advice. This is just where I'm thinking it's going to go. Again, this is my journey that we're talking about, and I'd like to share it with you just for fun. I also have a bunch of arrows that I drew, and some X's up top. So these arrows are where I think we could go in the short term and in the midterm, right? These are different points, and I'll show you how I came up with these areas, right? Let's take a look at a little zoom in for everybody, right? So price could find its way, and I'll just draw a line to make this a little clearer. Let's see, how do we do this? All right. So price is currently at 24,500 roughly, right? What I'm hoping and thinking, never hope. What I'm thinking is that we kind of bounce down, maybe fool with this trend line here for a little bit at around 22,000, 23,000, I should say, and then crash way down, right? Maybe hit down here where I have my first green arrow in this area, okay? And then again, bounce up a little bit, and then come back down in some fashion to my next green arrow, and then maybe bounce around a little bit, something like this. And then maybe slowly work our way back down to this 12,000 area, 12,800, 12,300, somewhere in that area, right? Maybe bounce there, right? Up again. and then find ourselves just stagnant for quite some time, but maybe zigzagging. By the way, this is January 24th, January 2024 in this area now, right, where we're looking at. You can see on the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the actual date. So we'll probably do something like this, right? It's not going to look the same, but the direction, if you drew a straight line, would probably end up somewhere in this area, which to me is in that 8,888 area. And this is where I already have buy orders set. And those buy orders have been there for over a year. I actually have buy orders all in this area. Okay, so this to me is a big accumulation zone from roughly 14,000 all the way down to 8,888. Okay, so I just keep putting, like a savings account, I keep stashing away little amounts of money into buy orders, right? This is safe in my mind. It's safe because I'm not losing anything, right? I'm waiting for the market to come to me. Okay, so let's take a look at that, right? Oops. So what happens after that scenario? Obviously, this is what happens, right? Right into the next run, into the next bull run, okay? And on and on and on. That's what happens next, okay? So I'm gonna get rid of those. Let's see, we'll get back here. I'm gonna get rid of this, Okay, so I've got all my arrows. Let's see how we got some of those arrows. Let's do it. So trend lines, this red line that I drew. What you want to do for a trend line is you find points where the price has gone and found some kind of support or it found some kind of resistance. So we're back here, back in March 2016, right? And we found a lot of support here, you notice, touch points where the price ended up, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just drawing a line that's right near those bottoms, right? Look at all these touch points. This wick, boom, hits there. This one here, close to it. This one again. This crazy wick that happened, right? And if you move down to here, it's, not the wick itself, but the candle is bumping up against there. Same with down here. Again, this isn't perfect. You can adjust it to make it perfect. But that trend line has been consistent for the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, right? 6 years. And as you look into the future here, here's the 2020 crash for COVID. Boom, same trend line, right? Same line. And look at today, this week, not today, because this is the weekly chart. Well, what do you know? The price found support there after flying up to 25,000, finding resistance there, crashing back down to this long-term trend line that I drew, right? Again, this isn't a perfect trend line, but it's telling you a story, right? The price is basically ramping up this trend line, okay? Right? Sure, it falls through it once in a while and blasts through it again, but typically there's touch points, which means it's finding support along this trend line, okay? So that's kind of trend line 101, essentially. But and that's the thing, it's a custom thing. You will come up with these trend lines based on what you are observing, okay? Now I have all these green arrows. So you're asking me, what are these green arrows for? What are they doing? Let's take a look here. I'm going to move this back over to here. Okay. So I've got these different arrows drawn. So let's look closer more at what's going on over the past month or so. Okay. And we're going to look at the bottom points where the price has found some support here and here. Okay. So let's just draw a trend line together. I'm going to draw a trend line. Let's do it. I'm going to draw a trend line from here to here. Okay. By the way, I drew that green X when the price was up here. I drew this green X based off of a trend line that I had drawn. I haven't deleted it because the price literally crashed and hit it. So let's find out where this goes. Oh, what do you know? Another point of support. Okay. let's line these up. Let's zoom in to see exactly what's going on here. Okay, bottom of the trend line, bottom of the trend line, pretty darn close, right? Maybe I could just zip it up a little bit. Okay, again, you can fine tune it and then find a trend, which can find also future touch points. So isn't it interesting that we're looking at January 21st area back here to June 22nd or June 2022, you know, 6 months later, something like that. And then into the future here, into 2023. And I think we're going to find a touch point here again, somewhere in April probably, as the price moves its way back down in a couple of months, month and a half or two. Okay. That's the point, right? So let's draw it together. All right. So again, the price would come down, maybe bounce around a little bit, come down, hit down here. I'm going backwards, bad example, but you get the point. And then come straight down here, right? Something like that, or maybe let's delete that one. Let's do it. Let's do it the right way. Let's say the price just from here crashes a little bit, hits my green arrow, bounces, and then comes down like this. This is more of a realistic look, right? Look at that. Okay, I'm not making this up. I'm going off of probabilities. Whoops, needed to get rid of that. This is we're extrapolating and estimating where the price could go. Now that looks similar to these patterns that we see here, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Okay, this yellow line that I drew is it goes with the same flow, right? I think so too, right? Now, of course, we could go something like this. Whoops, dang it, did the wrong thing. Of course, we can go something like this from this current point where we are. We could come down, hit this, and then keep our trajectory, something like that, sure. You know, or maybe we can go something like this, you know, and then down and then up. All kinds of scenarios. However, I think just from the past history that you see on the screen, let me get rid of this first. Thanks for being patient. Again, just from this past history, because this, as we talked about in our last video, this is a fractal, right? A repeating shape, right? And within that repeating shape are the same shape repeating again and again, right? So up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, right? That's what we're talking about. This kind of thing is not so common where we just blast and keep blasting and keep blasting, right? That's just a massive move. It happens from time to time, but it's not happening like right next to each other over and over, right? So we want to see the fractal itself and how it repeats. And to me, again, this is where I'm estimating, okay? I have two touch points. One is at this green arrow over the next couple of months, right? This is a movement that will hit somewhere in the 14,000 area, okay? But we can also find ourselves down here in the 11,000 area as well, $1,000 lower than that. Now, as time will go by into 2024, this 8,888 area is reasonable to me as well, because we could find ourselves, and forgive me for doing this again, we could find ourselves doing something like this, right? Hit there, you know, something like that. And this is the entirety of 2023 into 2024. This is why I've told some of my friends about this as well. I think that's all we're going to do this year in 2023 is something like this in this crazy range. And forgive me if I draw a line here, but I'm just going to do a quick line, something like that, right? Just a ping pong through this range, right? That's actually a pretty good line right there in terms of a trend. That's perfect, because that's probably what we're going to do. Again, there'll be lows that'll blow everybody away and make people panic, and there'll be highs that do the same thing, make people FOMO in at the tops, right? Whether it's here or here, or here, or here, right? Just like people are doing right now, all about crazy, euphoric we're in a bull run and it's never going to stop. That's what people are saying right now. However, there's a trend, okay? And we have to respect this trend. All right. So let's look at one more thing and I'll close the video out. You see some additional X points, mark points that I have here, similar to my X down here, right? This is also points where the price could go if it goes up. So let's do that really quick. I'll draw a trend line for that. And let's do it. And maybe it's going to take a little bit of adjustment, but we will prevail. Okay. All right. So it's something like this, and the X's would go something like this, right? This is how you can estimate an upper scenario, right? We just estimated the downward trajectory. The upper trajectory is this. Pretty crazy, huh? So you can do this two ways. You can have a trend line that respects this first top and the 2017 top, right? And that would be literally $112,000. You know, it depends on where in time it actually hits this trend line. So it could be 100,000, 95,000, 112. If it goes out way out to here, $164,000 out this way, and that's in January of 2024. If it came up and went that high and went upwards, that is the resistance points. Pretty crazy, right? In the short term, if the price blew up, yeah, right now that would be, if it went straight up until it couldn't hit, until it hit resistance, yeah, that would be something like $110,000, 112. Pretty crazy. Now, but that's just one way to draw an upper trend. This is probably more realistic, this second trend line, the second top. So from the 2017 top to the top that happened in November 2021. Okay, so it'd be a little bit, it'd be a step down like I had these X's originally. This is, I think, is more realistic, and the price would be up there. Not much difference. Still like 98 grand, 130,000. Kind of depends on what's going on. Okay, now last of last notes. Remember this red trend line that I drew though. Okay. Now, this is the bottom channel. I feel something like this is more realistic as the bottom. But look what happened. We broke through it already once. Let's take a look at it. We've already broken through with this blast down, and we went down to 15,000, which really shocked a lot of traders, a lot of Bitcoin enthusiasts, because they thought that it would never go past this particular red trend line that we have, but it did. It blasted down and respected my blue trend line down here. That's a downward trajectory. Okay, so I know this is getting complicated, but my point is because we didn't find support here like we always have in the past, here in 2020 and all through here, right back in 2016. Because we didn't respect that this time, and we blasted through this trend line, we had to find a new trend bottom, okay? Which is, again, in a channel going down. Because we did that, guess what? This red line is now resistance, which means it's really hard to get through, okay? But we did. We made it through. We blasted, found this support down here, and came up with a really ferocious push up and popped through it again. And then we found this trend line, okay? But again, I think what's going to happen is because there's so much resistance here, and because those moving averages are suffocating the price of Bitcoin at 25 grand. Let me turn those back off because it's out of control right now. Because of all of this, I believe we're going to come back down, find our way through this long-term red trend line that I've drawn, and then find our way in lower below it and then get stuck, okay? This matches more what's going on in the macro economy, in the overall economy, this downward. There's interest rates are high and they're continuing to get pushed up higher. But guess what? Interest rates were lowest in history all through here. Interest rates were low. The macro stock market was in a bull market. Everything's in a bull market, including Bitcoin during this time frame. Now we're probably in a little bit of a relaxing time where the stocks are kind of coming down, Bitcoin's coming down, everything's coming down. Interest rates are going up. The value of the dollar is going up, right? So that pushes on these risk assets. It pushes a lot of support on them. But again, looking at the big picture, doesn't this yellow area make sense, right? Looking at history, it makes sense to me. This is what really a lot of this is all about, is the movement, the flow of an asset, right? On the lines on this chart, right? Okay. So again, worst case scenario, 8,888 for Bitcoin in 2024, maybe even late Q4 2023. Okay, a lot of info there. I will leave it at that. Thank you very much for tuning in, and please like and subscribe on this video if you can, and on my channel.